Time to have a cataract taken out.
Adding the money up and then taking the change.
So tomorrow night, Ross, is the first home week for the,
No, I did not print it out. Some of me, but still.
that's our summer team. So they only, they're from June to, basically Memorial Day to like late July. They only go for like 2 months, and they part of the Breakers for 15 years until last year we finally.
I can't wait till there's a picture that's due for annual, we go around to get a fork ram. Yeah, it's gonna be. I mean, I'm hot now. I'm never ever get this. I'll pay your bill. I'll pay your bill.
What's that? She isn't practicing as much these days because she's taking swim lessons. Yeah, she swims for the university. She swims every day when she's in school. Well, she's trying to. She's trying to swim like 3 or 4 days a week, but it's kind of hard. It's nice there. I think we need to go.
When she starts talking. Like this. Yeah.
Well, it's been hard to click a little
Now you can bounce.
We'll do the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Sandy, can we get a roll call?
Yes, sir. Nathan Parchman.
Here.
Jim Campbell.
Here.
Todd Roach.
Here.
Jessica Lott. Here. Jim Blackburn.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. And then next item of business is 1.3, approval of the minutes. If I can get a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
Well, Jessica and Jim, one of them got it. They still move second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. And then we're going to move to 2.1. We'll pass that off to Robin, I think.
Okay, this is the quarterly report, sorry, asking to approval of the budget actual report. This goes through March 31st, 2025. As a reminder, keep in mind that variances, sometimes due to the timing of the journal entries or, the start and stop time on projects, things like that, and revenues, again, all depending on the postings. So this is the same report. We're just looking to have it approved here to move to the council for the next meeting.
Okay. All right, sounds like, do we have any questions or comments on that before we go for a motion? All right, if not, look for a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call?
Parchman.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Roach.
Yes.
Lot.
Yes.
Blackburn.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, motion passes. Then we'll move on to 2.2.
Okay, this is a resolution authorizing a transfer from reserves and budget amendments for the major funds that have expenditures in excess of budgeted amounts at the end of fiscal year '25. This is required of our auditors. It is a note that within the audit document in the required supplemental information, they will make a comment if we have any major funds that have spent more than their budget. So we like to try to avoid that notation, so we review all of our funds in detail and look for those items that we may have been overspending on. This does not take into account any excess revenues we have to cover those. Per the audit, it's strictly looking at only the expenditures. Okay, so that's why it's a little bit different review of it than looking at just your regular budget versus actual with revenues and expenditures. So we have a list here of the major funds and the amounts we are looking for to make amendments on and their explanations. We do have revenues that covers these, but like I said, they're not part of this analysis for the audit.
All right, thank you. And just as a note, we have this every year where we go through this, something we have to do. So it's not anything that's different or new. So are there any questions or concerns from the committee?
I don't have
Jessica?
a question, but just a comment. Fiscal year '25 is for the year that just ended.
Correct,
So we
up
are-
through 4/30/2025.
Correct. So this is for all of last year's fiscal budget.
Yes.
All right, thanks, Jessica, for the comment. Any other comments or questions? All right, if not, look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, can I get a roll call?
Parchman.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Roach.
Roach?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Lot.
Yes.
And Blackburn.
Here, yes.
Did anybody have any comments on that?
Oh,
Sorry.
if any of the public wants to come up.
Ron Zelms, Ward 6, back from Alaska, and it's a little bit cooler up there. I've just got one question that stuck out of my mind on the Social Security. Sandy knows I always go for that one. 6.2% is the Social Security flat amount. That equates to about 1.1 million in salaries. What I'm trying to figure out is there a need, or was there a need to shift 1.1 million to cover more salaries, or was it truly just an under budget on the Social Security?
Correct.
And there's not an additional 1.1 million
No.
in salaries?
It was based on our estimate because,
Okay.
when we do it, you've got your pre-tax and all of that. We don't do
Yep.
that whole full analysis. So
Okay.
we
So
underestimated our budget
strictly an underestimate on the Social
on
Security.
the Social Security.
Thanks.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else have comments? All right, thank you. And 2.2 is passed. Moving on to 2.3, ordinance retaining the 1% grocery sales tax. Sandy?
Okay, so this one is just really retaining that 1% grocery tax. If you recall that during 2024, the state legislature, Public Act, it repealed the 1% statewide grocery tax. So that's effective January 1 of 2026. This, again, is not a new tax. It's something that has been there. When they had asked approximately how much we would lose, and we again, it's a rough estimate, about $1.2 million. It's very difficult to give you an exact number because the state doesn't track it that way. It's part of the sales tax number. So they don't say this is your grocery tax. When we did our estimate, it was just basically looking at our grocery stores and doing an estimate. So again, this $1.2 million does go into our general fund, so it would be a substantial loss if it was not retained. By passing this ordinance, it would basically, when January 1 stops from the state, this home rule continues that 1%. So it's just no resident will see any difference what they're paying now. So on a $100 grocery bill, they're paying the same dollar that they're paying now. So there is no difference. Most of our, there is an article in the newspaper, and we also did a polling through IML, Belleville, Shiloh, Fairview Heights. All of our neighbors also are retaining this 1%. So this is something that we feel, because it is a loss of $1.2 million and it is part of the general fund, that, again, the general fund is used for public safety. We're looking at the Veneta Bridge, downtown district streetscaping, additional police officers. So this is something that it's not just a one and done, we lose the 1.2. This is 1.2 million each year based on the grocery tax. So again, this is an ordinance that was written by IML. They highly recommend that communities go and continue retaining this 1% grocery tax. So it is a ordinance that will require approval.
All right, thank you, Sandy. All right, any comments or questions from the committee?
I'd make a comment. We lost about $900,000 in sales tax revenue when Offenburg moved to Shiloh. So I think that combined with dropping the grocery tax drops our sales tax revenue by about $2 million. So that's $2 million less we have to use to repair streets and do that sort of thing that sales tax goes for. So I think being mindful of that, I think, is important at this juncture.
Thank you. Anyone else have comments? Todd, you want to say something?
I'm opposed to it. I think the adding the 1%. I know we say that residents still have it now, and so they won't see a difference. But the reality is that it was taken away. It's a tax that was given back from the state that now we're reimposing. So we are asking residents to pay more than they would, and it's us, the city, doing it. So it is 1%. It's on groceries, which is for our necessities for people. So it's hurting those families that are most in need, most vulnerable, because you can't go without buying food. You can go out, you can go without buying maybe luxury items, cars. As you mentioned from Offenburg, you could go without buying a car potentially, but you can't go without buying food. And so this hurts everybody, and it hurts those who are most in need. And so I would be adamantly opposed.
Thanks, Todd. Anyone else on the committee?
Can
Cal?
I add one
Yeah,
thing?
go ahead, Sandy.
Just to make clear, those that are on SNAP or already on any assistance program, they do not pay grocery tax. So they're already exempt from that grocery tax. I just needed to add that.
Thanks for adding that.
I have a comment.
Jessica?
Just to put it into perspective, so we will collect about $10 million in sales tax in the general fund, and the police department alone costs $9 million. So I support what I consider a rollover of the tax, because if we were to cut back, it would be very difficult. I mean, if you need to cut back, you generally cut back on the areas that would make the most impact, and I don't see that as being viable or what we tend to do here in O'Fallon. So I support the rollover of the tax.
Thank you, Jessica. Anyone else on the committee?
The one thing I would say, have we looked at other potential taxes that would be less impactful than a grocery tax?
Well, a few years ago, we did that whole revenue source, we looked at all the various ones. Unfortunately, most of them are, not as substantial as the 1.2. There is the streaming tax, which is that amusement tax, which is on Netflix and those type items. At that time, it was not something that, the council wanted to move forward with. The grocery tax, again, it's something that was there. And so as far as your question, several years ago, we did look at various revenue streams, but not, in replacement of the grocery tax.
And Sandy, the streaming tax wouldn't be 1.2 million.
No.
It was like a couple
hundred thousand. Mhm.
I'm just getting at, there's other potential taxes that could be looked at that are more luxury type taxes versus the grocery if you're trying to fill the hole. Even adding to the actual overall sales tax would still be, to me, better than a grocery tax. Even if you had to raise the overall sales tax a smaller percentage, I would be more inclined to go with that than keeping a 1% grocery tax, because I'm assuming you could raise the overall sales tax less than 1%.
You can do it in quarter increments.
But I mean, that would raise more, a quarter percent on a sales tax would raise probably more than the food tax.
I mean, the 1% is about 1.4 million is what the 1% is now.
For all
Or
the sales
is a
tax?
half cent. Right, the
Is a
half cent.
So you could raise a half cent of the sales tax would be the same amount roughly as 1% on food.
I mean, if the council is at something they want to entertain, but, yes, you
I'm
can,
just-
because we are home rule, we're able to increase our home rule sales tax in quarter increments.
Yeah.
So since we did the 1%, just 2 years ago, when we did the Bill O'Fallon and the parks, we've already now gone ahead, we're at, 1% or 1.5%. We're at the half cent for the Prop S and then the 1 cent or 1%.
Is it on food and drugs or just food?
The grocery tax is strictly,
Okay, I just want to make sure because I know there was a tax on
is
drugs.
just on food,
Yeah.
right?
And then you said Shiloh, but are they home rule?
No, the IML, when they passed legislation, they allowed home rule and non-home
Oh, and
rule to
non-home,
pass
okay,
it. So anyone was able to continue.
So all the grocery stores around us in Fairview Heights, Shiloh, Collinsville, Edwardsville, Lebanon, they've all approved the grocery tax, retaining it.
I would, like I said, I would rather consider other revenue options versus tacking it onto a grocery tax.
I will add that with this, again, it expires January 1. Everything needs to go to the Department of Revenue by October 1 for it to just be a smooth takeover January 1. So yes, I mean, that could be a discussion, knowing that if all of our ordinances are not passed by that date, then it would have to be, each half year after that.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from the committee? Council? Roy?
If this is just a one-time deal, doing away with this, but it's not, it's continuous tax. So it's not just 1.5, 1.2, 1.5, whatever it is, a one-time deal. This is something we would lose every year.
That is correct,
So
correct.
I don't think there's anything out there
Well,
that would generate.
we say we lose, but our residents lose when we tax it. So it's taking money from our residents. So yes, the city loses, but it's money we were taking from our taxpayers.
But they're already paying that tax.
But the state has said it is going away, so we're now putting it in place. It would be like saying that you just got a tax cut from the federal government, but the state of Illinois raises their income tax. Nobody would be happy about that. It's the same thing.
All right, any other comments from the council? Public? Ron, come on up.
Yeah, Ron Zilms, Ward 6 again. I spoke against this when, when it came up, I don't know, a year ago or so, and I still feel that way. Because again, I look at where we are right now with the report coming up on cash and investments. As of the 31st of March, 134 million, over 134 million. And I want to back that up a little bit. The last thing I could find was back in January of 2022 when the city published unfunded city projects for the next 5 years, over well, almost 38 million. Some of which exceeded that, some of what didn't. In other words, this city takes in a lot of revenue, okay, and has been able to manage to pay a lot of projects, and still has increased their cash and investments on hand from 2022 by 42 million bucks. To say that we're going to miss 1.2 million, I find that hard to believe. I guess what I would like to see is, you list a lot of cities here that are voting to retain it. Where are they sitting with cash and investments on hand? My guess is we're head and shoulders above a lot of them. And as far as making up revenue, I've brought this up before. I personally don't like it, but I brought it up before. Of some of these cities that are on here, Belleville, Fairview Heights, Collinsville, Edwardsville, where do they make up some of their revenue? Cannabis sales, okay? I know the city has said we're not going to do that. We're too good for that. But there are other sin taxes out there. You're going to do a push tax on video gaming. There you go. Tax the sins, okay? And I think you can find some money. But to say that 1.2 million is going to hurt this city, when again, as of the end of March, the cash and investments on hand is almost $134.5 million, up 40-some million from 3 years ago. I just find that hard to believe.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else? All right. All right. All right, any more comments from the committee before we would vote on this? All right. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Got a second by one of the Jims. All right, can I get a roll call, Sandy?
Parchman,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Roach,
No.
Lotz.
Yes.
Blackburn.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. All right, 3.1, follow up on the multiplier disabled vet exemption. Anything there?
Just basically, I'm just wanting to do a follow-up. I know there's been some questions about when former Mayor Roach was here, right before he left, he and I had a great conversation. We had heard about the multiplier that was going to go up 12%. And our initial looking, before we really dug into it, was maybe there's some effect that the disabled vet exemption is having on this multiplier. Maybe that's why the multiplier is going up. And then after I really delved into it. I contacted our county assessor, I contacted our state assessor's office, and there's really no direct effect between the disabled vet exemption and our multiplier. And basically because the multiplier is based what's called on their sales ratio study analysis. And so what that's doing, it's looking at the value of a home, that the county has assessed at, and how much that home sold for. So because our market is such that people are paying more than what's on the assessor's value, for instance, a $300,000 home it may sell for, but the assessor has it for $100,000. So the effect of a disabled vet, that home is still being assessed at a dollar amount. The only issue is they're not paying the property tax. But as far as calculating that multiplier, that home value makes no difference. So just kind of clarification. Unfortunately, I learned a lot, trust me, about the assessed value and the sales ratio study. This is a 3-year average, so the sales ratio analysis looks at these home values and the selling of these homes over 3 years. So normally it averages out, okay, over the 3 years. because the market is where it is today, it continued to rise. So therefore, that multiplier continued to rise. They're trying to get to that 33 1/3, which is that assessed value, based on where people are assessed on the county. That's causing the skewing of that ratio. So keep in mind that the county will be assessing next year for O'Fallon Township, and then the following year for Caseyville Township, because that multiplier affects both counties. I'd love to tell you that next year you're going to see a decrease, but because it's really based on this year, we're going to probably see about the same multiplier, if not more, than what we have this year. And it is based on where homes are selling versus what they have on the assessed value. So, that's really, what I will be reviewing. I've talked, like I said, with the county assessor, and we've kind of agreed that, she'll send me the sales ratio numbers so I can kind of be looking at them, because again, they're not familiar with our areas. And so one of the things that we saw was a home value that they listed for $500,000 at the neighborhood behind Bank of O'Fallon. Well, there's no home that's going to sell for $500,000. So those are things that we'll start looking at as well. But as far as that multiplier, the disabled vet exemption has no direct effect to that. So I just wanted to kind of give an update on that.
Thank you. Any comments from the committee? Council? Public?
Vermoyer, Ward 3. Just what you're saying, Sandy, I appreciate the information. So then, but at the very end of that, their house value will play into this also, correct?
If the house is sold, correct.
Right, okay. So to get because the monies went up this year in 25. So is 25 in that realm, or is it 22, 23, and 24 to make 25?
So the multiplier, so the 2024, so the multiplier this year was for 2024, right? So it looked at 22, 23, and 24.
They looked at 22, 23, and 24. Mm-hmm. So then next, and 26, it'll look at 23, 24, and 25.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, sir. Any other comments from the public? All right, if not, this was just a discussion item. Thanks for the info, Sandy. All right, moving on to 3.2, the push tax.
Okay, so this push tax has been going on since October of 2021. This is an ordinance that we passed back in October of 21, but we just weren't able to implement that at that time because of some lawsuits that were going on between the communities that already had it implemented and the gaming, the video gaming operators. So when my March meeting, right before then, IML, the lawsuits kind of came out that they went in favor of the communities. IML said, hey, this is great news. Maybe, you guys can start implementing. Those that had passed that ordinance prior to the deadline of the 2021, let's look at going forward. So at my March 24th meeting, I had talked about this is something that we'll probably start moving forward with, but we needed to have some guidance. How do we go about implementing it? Because again, it's based on the number of pushes that a person hits the video gaming machine. So if I put in $20, if I bet $20, that's one push. If I put in $20 and I have 10 pushes, or, there's then a penny for each push. So that one $20 is worth a penny. If you do 10 pushes, that's worth 10 cents. So all on that same $20. So the video gaming operators, there needed to be a way for them to do the machine so that we can track how many pushes and then get the money. I reached out to the Illinois Gaming Board thinking, they'll be my resource, they'll tell us how to do it. IML reached out to the Illinois Gaming Board, hey, how do we do it? Well, after about a month and a half, IML received a reply. They never replied to me, I'm a nobody, but they did reply to IML, and they respectively declined providing guidance. So they do not have any obligation or jurisdiction under the act to participate in the implementation or enforcement. So basically, the gaming board says, it's on you guys, you figure out how you implement it. So I've been in touch with IML saying, what's our plan B? So they responded back saying, well, it's a little bit more complicated than what we were going to ask of the gaming board, so stand by, we're working on plan B. So just to let you know, it's still not being implemented. We still have no idea how much we'd even get out of this, but it is still out there. I'm working with IML, and they send us notices. So once we get an idea of how to get it implemented, because again, it's a local tax, kind of like our hotel, motel, food and beverage, they would send it directly to us. So this is more of an information, because at my March meeting, I was all excited. We were going to get it implemented. Well, now it's just kind of back on hold.
Well, while we don't know how much, we
Correct.
still think it'll be around
100,000 maybe. I mean, and again, we don't know, but, we don't know.
All right, thanks, Sandy. Any questions on that from the committee? Council? Public? All right. Also, just a discussion item, and then we'll move on to 3.3, quarterly investment report. Anything, Sandy?
Nope, just the quarterly report.
Any questions from anyone or comments on that? All right. Treasurer's report. Anything, Sandy?
Nope, same.
Same question. Any questions from anybody? And then administration committee reports, 3.5.
A lot of information. We do include our grant report, and you can see, we've gotten quite a few grants, waste management report, and then our utility billing, which is a good read as well. It kind of tells you how much traffic we get through our utility billing department.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from anybody on that? All right, seeing none, we'll move on into 4.1, which is public comments. If anybody has any public comments about the finance administration, come on up. All right, seeing and hearing none, would ask for a motion for adjournment.
Motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned, and that was the only meeting.
They've been busy. Hey, Jim. Yep, they have been very busy. Lots of, I have a radio I listen to quite a bit. How are you? They're busy.
It was nice because I go, I don't know why, they all just turn me on the card, and so I was able to find that. I'll do a card, I don't really want to do anything. I'll bring it back. So it was always nice to get the money.
I'm in an all-inclusive club, so I have to spend some of the time outside. Most of the time, I'm in here.
That's what club is that one?
There's several different
Oh, okay,
all-inclusives.
okay.
I'm in the 703. It's a new club.
Yeah,
So it's where the bow tie bar used to be.
okay.
Right below Big Mac Land.
Oh, okay.
It's a Champions Club, and they blocked off that right next to it, and it's the 703 Club.
Okay. We're looking at trying to get see.
703 is a good place. It's more like the Champions Club is very nightclubby. They got couches, the lights are down low.
Okay.
It's all you can eat, all you can drink. The 703 Club is more of a picnic, daytime kind of. See you gentlemen later. Burgers, brats, dogs. We don't have a carving station and stuff like they do.
something to look at for the fire department. We're always try to do like an outing, like an all-inclusive. It's like by the time you pay for the ticket and buy all your food and drinks for the day.
It's worth it.
Yeah, it is.
It's, opening day and holidays and stuff, it's not worth it. But
Oh, yeah.
they were like $650 each opening day.
Oh.
You'd have to eat a lot of food.
That is a lot,
of
yeah.
drinks.
Right, right.
But on a regular day, you can get them for $80.
Yeah, I was looking, we were looking at the Cards Cubs series coming up next week. We get off work.
Tonight, it's a 4-game set.
Oh, that's right, yeah, we were looking at going Thursday day game, yeah. And we looked at that, and I think it was only like, at the time, that some of the all-inclusive were like $180 or something. Oh, yeah.